welcome to August videos. Today we are really gonna bust out some chipboard. We're gonna use that to create the focal point for our journal page. I did start with Canson watercolor paper. I set that to the side. I've got a new frame, a window frame. It has panes in it from Umwell Studio, a chipboard frame. And I'm using some Dick Blick gesso, and I think it's the Studio, Studio Artist. It's the Artist version, and I really like the consistency of this, the thickness. I really enjoy the texture that it can create and the body that it has. And I'm dabbing the gesso on my piece of chipboard. And what this does is it creates a texture. If I brushed it on, I might have brush strokes, or if I smeared it on, then I would have like lines and it would be pretty smooth. But what I want is like some oomph to it, some texture. I want it to have a little bit of grit, and you can see kind of where it's popping up, where I've been dabbing it. And so just go ahead and dab a gesso on with your fingers, and you could dab it with a palette knife if you want. You're not going to get exactly the same texture because a palette knife is so smooth where your fingers have a lot of texture on them from your skin and the things that are happening, the ridges on your fingers. Then I go ahead and dry this, and I am the worst. I never wait for anything to dry on its own. I always grab my heat gun, so you see that a lot. But once it's dry, the layer wasn't that thick either. I just really wanted the texture. Once it's dry, I get out my Distress ink pad and I color where the texture sticks up. So it's actually like a really great faux antique finish, or like a distressed finish that I didn't have to work so hard for, like where you layer things up. I do have a mask right here. It's just a piece of paper that's the same size as my window, but you don't have to use this because I end up covering that area anyways with something else. But I have pulled out the coffee stain that I use a lot, and if this is your first time tuning in, it's literally just instant coffee mixed with water. So in that squirt bottle, it's about 2 tablespoons of instant coffee, the rest with hot water. Shake it till it dissolves, and then because it's instant, it hasn't molded, and I get to use this for practically as long as I want until it's empty. And the squirt bottle, I have it set like between mist and stream. I have it pretty well in the middle, 50-50, and this creates these like really great little splotches that are happening, and I don't get full coverage because I enjoy white space. So I've kind of worked with my water bottle for that. And I just squirted a little bit in the background, and then I'm heating it with my heat gun so that it dries. And apparently I wasn't happy with the dryness, I guess. I do tend to voice over. Then where the coffee is still wet, and you can do this with anything that's wet, like with a thin acrylic paint, watercolor, distress, just any kind of ink, where it's still wet, if you tip your page up and then tap it on the table, then it'll create like fake drips. And now I'm kind of doing some mark making with the coffee. I'm just using a jar, and I sprayed the coffee into a tin where it could be flat. And then I dipped the jar into the coffee and then onto my page. And they're like fake coffee rings. They don't look fake, but they certainly weren't created by real spilled coffee, right? And of course, heating everything up. I do really enjoy using the coffee. I feel like it's very coffee colored. I've picked up some sprays by other companies and different things, and some of them are called tea, and some of them are called coffee, and some of them are called other things even, right? Like vintage photo and whatever, sepia and stuff like that, or sepia, however you say that. But I feel like nothing really is quite true enough to the color of coffee besides coffee. And the really great thing, if you mix up your own coffee spray, you can make as little or as much as you need, and you can lighten and darken it just by not adding in so much instant coffee or adding extra instant coffee to make it just a bit darker. I am now just tracing really thin, hard to see pencil lines around the mask because I'm going to get out my Fineliner and do my journaling around where the picture frame is going to go. And I just want to make sure that it's not lost behind the picture frame and it doesn't stick too far out away from the picture frame. And I'm just turning my page as I go and I'm writing, 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 writing. And one of the things I like to suggest is even if you don't have anything to write about and you're kind of just having fun doing whatever, um, do lyrics. You have to think of something. Tell yourself a rhyme or a story or write down lyrics. And remember, when you're writing, it's not really legible to anybody anyways, because we're making our swoops taller and we're squishing our letters together, and it's really more of a design element. Unless you are doing journaling, then that's when it becomes more personal. But if you're not doing journaling and you don't have something specific to write about, then your mind might go blank, and then you're going to stop writing with your fine liner. The paint is going to start to pool, and then you're really going to be unhappy with it. So even if you're not writing something personal or specific, just write a song lyric or tell yourself a rhyme or something like that, just to keep the flow going. All right, and then heat that, and that's how that's gonna look. I'm super pumped about this. I really, really love how this page turned out, and it was so fun to teach everyone too. Everyone really received it well. And the light source does change a little bit just because it took me a few different hours to do this, so I'm really sorry about that part. I am using some gel medium, and this is just regular, either matte or gloss. It doesn't really matter because we're using it as an adhesive. What I need, though, is for the gel medium to really soak into the chipboard and into the paper and create a really nice bond so that it's permanent. However, alert, alert, alert. If you are doing yours as I am doing mine, do not glue yours down yet, because I actually end up putting a piece of paper behind that. And because I already glued it down, I had to tear mine up. So I'll just warn you now, okay? Oh, I am pulling out. So my original idea, of course, right, was to kind of fill each pane with a little bit of something about me. So I got a Scrabble tile that has a D on it because my name is Dee Dee, and I had a cool little 30 ticket. I'm getting kind of close to 30 years old here. I turned 28 this year. But I love vintage tickets anyways. I got some like a ruler tape out and some ruler tape ribbon, and I got some film washi tape and just some kind of things, and I was working on something specific, and it does change, but that's fine. Oh, see, there's that color change again. I did take a minute. This is me now ripping up my chipboard. And you can see how well that gel medium stuck. It takes me a minute to actually get it out. So using gel medium is really worth it. But the cheesecloth that's back there, I did spray it with some coffee. So don't forget you can do things like that too, right? With your coffee, you don't have to use it straight on paper, but you can cover other things with it too. Really vintage some things up. There we go. I finally got it open enough to get it in there. And then I'm just going to end up gluing it back down. So, but this is it's a miniature encyclopedia, and they're so great. They have the coolest vintage paper in them, and it's old and distressed, and the text is super tiny, and they're very cool. They're like pocket encyclopedias. So that's why I tucked that back there. Here I go gluing back down because of course I had to pull it back up. But that gel medium is definitely something to have in your arsenal if you don't have it yet. It takes a while to dry, which is a little bit unfortunate, but it's worth it because what's happening is it's soaking into the paper and it's soaking into the chipboard, and it's creating like a really great bond between the two. It's really adhering them together. there's that light source change again because I let that dry. And it's not, even if you heat it with a heat gun, it's only going to dry on the outside and not on the inside. So you should definitely let your gel medium dry over time. And then here I'm stamping Viva Las Vegas Stamps Moon stamp. And I'm just going to fussy cut that out. And I have like a section of scraps on my table. I don't know if you do, but this is just like an old note card or something that I hadn't used, and it has a perfect white background, so it was great. I did black the edges of my moon because I got a little bit sloppy while I was trimming it out. And I actually really like how that moon looks just like it is there, but I won't leave it like that, as you saw in the beginning of the video. And now I'm just going to spend a little bit of time kind of playing with some of the products I've pulled out, and like that distressed cheesecloth and it's like a tape measure ribbon. I actually got that. It's a twill. It's a really kind of neutral brown color. It's really great. I picked it up at the Target dollar spot. Margie Romney Aslet. She's such a Target spot junkie. She's really got me checking there often. Her and Michelle LaCar. I ended up, as you can see, setting aside the coffee colored cheesecloth because I had an idea earlier. I was working on a different idea, right? Filling each pane, but I realized the panes were too small. So now I'm going with more of a center point of interest, and the coffee colored cheesecloth was too much brown because it was brown on brown on brown. So then I went back to just a small piece of white cheesecloth, and then it really helped set the tone and set things apart. So you can always experiment too, and you'll see in a lot of my videos I layer things up and take them apart and layer them differently, and then I'm kind of just remembering in my head like which ones really looked good and which one might be better this way or that way, etc. This right here is a hemp twine that I got at Hobby Lobby, and it's in this really gorgeous like charcoal gray color. I love it. I'll probably use it on a ton of stuff. But I did take to class a couple other things. That I had like a twine and like a sisal rope, and they just came in a few different colors, a baker's twine in kind of a caramel color, and then the sisal rope was in a lighter color, like a lighter tan. So, you definitely have some options, and you can pick as you like and keep your own likes and dislikes in mind too. Maybe you don't like gray. I'm not sure. Maybe you don't like using hemp. I did wrap it in a circle, and then I used my tiny attacher to create anchor points. So it did two things. I stapled it in two places to keep the circle in the shape that I wanted. But also it created little anchor points where I could put some gel medium and then glue it down instead of having to try and glue down each piece of twine, each circle as it circled around. I had now like a little platform, a little area where I could glue. I've got out, this is one of my favorite stamps that I've ever designed for Viva Las Vegas Stamps, and it's the writing triangles. There's 3 triangles in a row, and then they're kind of grungy and they're not perfect, and then they have a little bit of handwriting on the inside of them. I'm going to cut them apart today. I usually just use them in the background as writing triangles, but today I am stamping them on some craft colored paper and then fussy cutting them out so that I have these perfect little triangles, and I'm going to use them as rays for the sun. And so this is what I was talking about earlier. You'll kind of see me play around here a little bit. At first, I was thinking of just having a few. And keep in mind that, and I always say this, but your brain is really, your subconscious is really hardwired to like uneven things. And the reason is because nature doesn't create in evens. It doesn't make perfect circles and it doesn't make perfect squares. So at first I'm playing with like 3, and I think I might even start playing with like 5 or 7 or something. But eventually I just end up fussy cutting out enough to circle the whole thing. Oh, I actually really like that, huh? Maybe I should have left it like that. For reference, I do film these over a few different hours, and I never get one. Excuse me, I never get one page done in one go. Usually, it takes me a few hours, and I'm not necessarily working on it for hours at a time, but just like 20 minutes here and then 20 minutes there, and I think about it in between and things like that. But so then I fast forward through the recording and just voice over. So sometimes it's really great for me to even go back and kind of reflect on the decisions that I made and if I may have liked something better or but it's fun. I love it. I love art journaling. I love not having a specific purpose. Like a card is usually to send to someone or has a specific theme, and then a scrapbook page is kind of to scrapbook a specific memory. And here's where I decide to go ahead and make enough of those triangles to fussy cut and finish going all the way around the edge. So that'll take just a couple seconds here. Oh, and I was talking earlier, like I have a little like lazy Susan kind of thing on my desk, and it has scraps in it, and I'll get a picture of that up too here soon. So on the left hand side, it has some scrap, or on the I say on the left hand side, but it spins around. It has like tags and pieces of scrap paper and things like that, and that's where this craft colored tag came from. But yeah, so there, now you can see. And they've all been fussy cut. Good thing I cut the camera there, huh? They've all been fussy cut and glue all those down with gel medium. I am doing a little bit of doodling. And I think I mentioned this in almost every video, right? Like it's always really great to do something by hand. I do love using stamps and stencils and things like that. But what I'm doing now is I'm just drawing little circles. And there's an up close shot of those at the beginning of the video, and I'll put another one at the end so you can see. I wonder if I did already glue down. I must have already glued down the triangle. So I just used gel medium again because I already have it out and I've been using gel medium throughout. Plus it's nice and sturdy. So double-sided adhesives and liquid glues definitely do have their place, but when I'm working with lots of different textures and mediums, and I mean specifically mixed media, then I know that gel medium is really going to cure all the pieces together. It's going to work through my fabric, through my papers, through my chipboard, and even with metal and plastic embellishments. All right? So just finish this baby off with a little doodling, and that's it from me for the first August video. Thanks so much. Can't wait to see your interpretation.